Welcome back. Now, entrepreneur and property mogul Mike Nkuna plans to build a 5 billion rand smart city in rural Limpopo. So far, he has completed the first phase of Nkuna City with a 20 square meter shopping center. He joins me now. Mr. Nkuna, thank you so much for your time and thank you for joining us.
And thanks very much for inviting me, and thanks very much for you to have invited me to come and share my story with you.
And quite an interesting story it is. I really want us to start with a bit of background. Now, you were born and raised in Malamulele, but you were also a young boy who was then raised in Shawela in Soweto. You herded cows in your days. You've worked for your father, who was an entrepreneur who owned a butchery. So you've got quite an extensive background when it comes to knowing what entrepreneurship is. Can you just briefly take us through what the life of a young Mr. Nkuna was?
Well, look, you're quite right to say I was born and raised in Malamulele, whereby, I was a head boy, taking care of cattle on a daily basis. Wake up in the morning, go to the bush, and come back in the evening and take the cattle into a crop, hence the design of, Nkuna City,
right,
whereby, you'll find, the head of the cattle. And, after that, I moved into Shawela, whereby my father was running a butchery. And, it took me about 3 months to master that kind of business. Because, you see, when you are a visionary and an entrepreneur, it's quite easy for you to catch up and understand business. So that's how, I came about.
Now, one of the interesting stories for me is back in 1983, where it all started for you as a businessman. You acquired a piece of property in Soweto, which you bought with a loan that you got for 100,000 rands. And then a petroleum company came to you and said they wanted you to sell them the land. And then you made another proposal to them in terms of what you wanted to develop on that land. They gave you an offer. You went to their competition. They gave you a different offer, and you went back to them with an even higher offer. How easy or how difficult was it to do business? Well, especially in that political landscape.
What surprised me is that, you have already taken what you're supposed to ask me. So you're ahead of me. But be as it may, what you have said is quite, true. And by the way, as you are aware that, black people were not owning houses. So for black people to start developing their own houses or having an ownership, it started in 1978 after the uprising. So it was only after that, because I started working as a construction person, but subcontracting from the top 6, which was the Murray and Robert and the Group 5, and I was able to accumulate some money to buy that site which you referred to, and the oil company then came, and it was not easy. It was difficult, but you see, being an entrepreneur, I knew exactly what I wanted. And I wanted to develop a garage and a small shopping center, which I did in 1983 at Shawela, on the corner of Potchefstroom Road and Sianda as you go to Protea North. And that was the first organized shopping center in Soweto.
And the first of many. I mean, now you have 10 shopping centers and malls in Soweto. You've got franchises and many other petroleum stations that are in Soweto and across the country as well. How easy or how difficult has this journey been, especially being a young person who was raised in the rural areas of Limpopo and then becoming this entrepreneur who now has an honorary doctorate from the University of Johannesburg for being one of the most successful commercial and retail property developers in the country?
Well, look, let me correct one aspect. The 10 shopping center is not Soweto only.
Yes.
It's across the country. All right. So it's an indication that, where there's a will, there's a way. I wanted to perfect in that aspect because, you see, the retail development or property development was dominated by white people. And I said, I wanted to be counted amongst the best. Because, you see, in most cases, most business people, you find that, they don't have, an area where they have started. And if you want to distinguish, a businessman, you must know how he started, like you are explaining, and how he built the business. Because, you see, you don't wake up tomorrow and having built, a business that is a multi-billion without having a track record. So I wanted to set up that pace so that, I can become a true role model to the younger generation. Because, the younger generation, they want to see and understand the story so that, you can inspire them, so that, they can say, we can also do it.
Certainly an inspiration you are. You made mention in one publication with regards to looting that in 1976, when black people looted, they did not loot black-owned shops.
Yes.
In the course of apartheid and boycotting certain white-owned stores.
Yes.
But the 2021 July unrest was quite a different story, where we saw looting happening throughout, all around, regardless of who owned what shops. What's your take on that stance in terms of where we are now as a country? And some of your own malls were looted during the time.
Yes.
How was that recovery process for you?
Well, you're so right. You're touching a very important, question, because, 1976, the leadership, which was leading the people, the leaders of, the ANC were grounded. They were residing with the people. So they were able to direct people to do the right thing. Currently, where we are now, the leaders, they've moved from where the people are, and they're residing somewhere else. And what it means that, the leadership that, we had 76, they were true leaders. And when you compare them with the current leader, I would say we don't have a leadership currently, the way I see it. But be as it may, you talked about what happened in July unrest. It was not an easy thing to see, the hard-earned money that, you have invested in order to uplift other people's life to go in smoke. So Protea land was gutted, but we were able to distinguish. Jabulani Mall was, looted, and we were able to, resuscitate them. We are now operating 100% because I'm a believer of, going out there and make a difference.
Talking about that belief, I want us to touch on the smart city. 5 billion rands set aside for the smart city that will be placed in rural Limpopo. Just what's the thinking behind it? What's the smart city going to look like, and why Limpopo?
I normally, look at, various areas, and I also do my own research. You'll realize that, in 1970, the gentleman that built, Sandton City, Donald Gordon, bought a site where Sandton is, and, designed a city. And the first phase of Sandton City was 20,000 square meters, and the first door opened 1973. But you see, if you look at the design, the whole concept, they've designed it such that, they'll be able to add and add and add to a point where Sandton City is today. And I look at how, our country was segmented, whereby it was urban area, township, and rural area. And I asked myself, what if, I come in after checking whether is there any black person who has developed, city or town, and only to find out there's no black person who has done that. And I said, I want to be the first to do that kind of thing, whether it's in a township or rural area. And that's what led me to go and acquire a site on the N12 in Soweto, towards, Potchefstroom. We have bought a land of 160 hectares where we're going to put, Masengita City. I also bought a land in Limpopo, in Kuzana, where we bought a land of about 130 hectares. And we then came with a concept, which, it's going to start with a retail development, same way that, Sandton started. But you see, what we have done in that concept, we created, the industrial area, government offices. We created, a space where we're going to have a satellite university. We created a space where we're going to do a hotel and conferencing. Also Resi, not, RDP houses or social houses, because when you want to build a city, Donald Gordon wanted, people to go and buy, beautiful houses and expensive houses. So you have to bring a combination of that. And
Dr. Mike Nkuna is a multimillionaire businessperson from South Africa. He is the executive chairman and founder of Masingita Property Investment Holdings. In addition, he owns over 10 malls in Mzansi and many franchises in different cities in the country. All these contributions have made the tycoon an inspirational figure for people seeking to venture into property development. He became a millionaire through property development. Mike formed the Masingita Group of companies in the 1970s. His first breakthrough was in 1983 when the Soweto municipality offered to sell Nkuna a plot of land for R100,000. He gladly accepted the offer and purchased the land after securing a loan from Perm Bank. The property tycoon owns many retail and filling station franchises in South Africa, including Excel Garage, Malamulele BP Garage, Soweto Sasol Garage, Bosworth, Alberton Shell Garage, Giyani Shell Garage, Soweto. He also owns mall like Aeroton Convenience Center, Nasrik Bara Mall, Soweto Diepsloot Mall, Diepsloot Jabulani Mall, Soweto Mangalani Convenience Center, Giyani Mangalani Convenience Center, Soweto Mangalani Shopping Center, Malamulele Masingita Shopping Center, Giyani Masingita Mall, Giyani Masingita Plaza, Giyani Masingita Towers, Santon Morena Mall, Mahikang Motor Town, Giyani Nkuna Kraal Mall, Giyani Proria Glen Mall.